Hey team, how we going? It is Kaz from In the Trenches with Kaz, and I have to fix this camera again. We're going to be cancelling StreamYard by the look of it, team. No, it looks like it's working now. How are we today? Guys and gals, I hope that you are well. I really do. I wish you well. I do. What a topic to cover. There is so much hatred, angst, blame, regret that is going on the TV that's protracted because it makes the news. If it bleeds, it leads. We're seeing names getting thrown around. We're seeing people persecuted without the ability to defend themselves, i.e. in a court martial, etc., where there is no security clearances, to be worried about. We're allowing our yesterday's heroes to be persecuted in the TV while doing nothing about the atrocities of those we've been up against, whether that be in Somalia, whether it be in Rwanda, whether it be in Cambodia, whether it be in Afghanistan, etc. PTSD, moral injuries, veteran deletion, royal commissions. We're going to talk about that tonight. Who's to blame? Is anyone to blame? Is it the individual? Is it just part of the scars of being part of the situation? Who knows? There's so many places you could press a finger, push a finger, blame, or sometimes you can also project it when in actual fact it falls within yourself. A bit of self-accountability, a bit of substance abuse, a bit of isolation, a bit of ostracism that causes the finger to turn around, the mirror to be held up, not like what you see, and then attack others to make it someone else's fault, to deflect. This is a subject that is so hard to talk about because we're a channel that is trying to tell people, guide people, give the don't walk off the moors advice. Hey, we're off in London. To tomorrow's heroes, VC winners, gallantry award winners, to the bastions of security for those that are girt by sea of the Australian ADF, the Australian Defence Force, sailors, airmen, army. Those at the pointy end. There is no monopoly on who is visited by the black dog. But it's a very, very important subject. Yet anything to do with this topic is almost not viewed on YouTube, is not looked at, because it's like cancer is not a big deal until you have it or your loved one has it and then you get it. Yeah, I get it. Guys and gals, it's an interesting subject. We need to give it a voice. We need to flesh it out a little bit without throwing blame at leadership, without throwing blame at DVA, without throwing blame at the operation, because there is so many ingredients in this goddamn fucking cake that it'd be impossible. And every individual has got a different version of, or interpretation of, or translation of what they've gone through. Some are domestic, some are abroad, some are a combination of both, some are like myself. Mine is all about moral value systems crushed while on operational service that was avoidable. But I've got to look in my metaphoric mirror every day as I unpack names like Amalia, like Grace, like Bernadette, and like Julius. I don't even get to blame the people that did the atrocities. My heart is just going out of compassion for those that I had to turn my back on and leave, despite the fact that I'm an upstanding citizen, that I drive like an old lady. I try to do the right thing by those that don't know my name. That's what we should all do. That's what makes you a better citizen. That's what you bring to the table: peace, safety, tranquility to those that don't know you or any better or your story. We're going to talk about that tonight. And believe me, there is absolutely no guarantee, and it is highly unlikely that you were going to suffer from PTSD by being in the Australian Army, Air Force or Navy. There is inquisitions all the time onto the weight of someone's confession or their pension that they are or are not legitimate. I don't ask about people's story because I don't want to judge them, but I have been caught out before giving my own interpretation internally on who I think is a fugazi, a fake diamond, only to find out their situation was horrible. Absolutely horrible. And one of those guys on my PTSD course was a Rafi who took his own life because he couldn't deal with it. And then we've got amazing people, special forces operators. People like James Meredith Hupp from the US, Jody and Matt's son, who lost his life on the same day, as one of my good friends. Absolutely, absolutely tragic. Who goes through more? Is it those that are wounded, those that are taken down the battlefield, or those that survive? It's an interesting question. Some people would probably wish they were hit with the first arrow rather than live throughout the whole conflict and come home and feel like they're completely invisible, disenfranchised to those that weren't there. The whole saying, you weren't there. A Cacadao VC. That was for K-Dog. G'day, Hoots. How you going, mate? Pineapple Eater. How much has changed since Vietnam, it seems? The key and the answer to all this is the soldiers, the hierarchy. We all know the answer to what's going on, team. And I'm going to talk about some of these now. And this is an important subject, a very important subject. And I'm giving you a lot of respect by talking about this tonight because this is a subject that you normally only hear secondhand on podcasts. I'm supposed to be doing a podcast with Matty Morris from Zero Limits on this very topic, but I just didn't want to let it sit much longer. I've got a video here you may or may not have seen before that wraps this perfectly. It does, so that people can identify and understand the scars that happen on those that serve you, are normally invisible. What's this? Wait 2 seconds. Okay. Breaking news. Sending soldiers to war. Wait a second. Breaking news. Sending soldiers to war and then treating them like they don't exist is bad for the mental health. Who could have guessed? Absolutely. We're seeing people state the absolute goddamn obvious all the time, like they're some savant or Sun Tzu on how to treat people, yet everyone knows what the problem is. When we go overseas, sometimes we recruit the wrong people. HR needs to shut the fuck up. And you just show how hard the army can be and the right people will come. The right wolves, those seeking the last frontier, the bastion of truth that happens when the politics are ripped away and then it comes down to, can you cut it? That's pretty important. When you get in, remember that everywhere we go is normally because someone else has said, we need help. We answer the call in the night, whether it came from coalition forces who said, help us, or whether it was someone that said, this has got to stop, and Australia gets thrown in the mix by our politicians. Not visited, not supported, not even spoken to. And when they do, they normally speak with the olive eaters who represent us. Yep. Those that get paid the most, they're in the least amount of danger. The very least. Yet they get paid 10 times more. That doesn't make sense to me. We don't see generals, we don't see colonels, we don't see brigadiers leading from the front on a horseback with a sword anymore. Yet now there's a massive disconnect where we still paint rocks and prepare for their daily visit instead of letting them speak to the warts and all soldier on the ground to get to the truth. There's not think tanks that happen with amazing soldiers like Justin Huggett. Okay, with examples of people from the Special Forces fraternity and the battalions, and the sailors and the airmen that have got something to gripe but not something to blame, because you've also got to be able to, You've got to be able to represent yourself without the fire and brimstone at times too. Speak like a goddamn adult if you want people to listen. When we go to get out of the army, and when we come back from overseas, one of the things that happens is we normally spear off away from our friends, or with our friends, and then what happens is we immerse ourselves in vice. Okay, trying to drink our problems away. Trying to hide from it. Maybe we don't even feel it yet. It's like being in shock. And then we tell the stories. At one stage, they feel like they're glory stories. Hey, Elise King, how you going, mate? Welcome to the Great Unwashed, you filthy animal. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you very much. And we know where you are at the moment, and God bless you, queen. It's a real tough one. The stories that are something you tend to boast about at the start, due to the graphic nature of what you saw, tend to be the things that haunt you later, and sometimes a regret that you reveled in something that was so horrible. Also, with the substance abuse, with drinking and other things, and the external pressures on either family, partners, etc., to try and drag you out of the military because you've done your time, so to speak, don't understand that the very bubble wrap of mateship and brotherhood is what's keeping you sane. You don't know how tired you are in a run or physical activity until you stop. And then all of a sudden, the breathing comes in, the adrenaline dump occurs, and the emotion follows. The fatigue, if you will. Now, when we go to get out of the military, it's normally because someone tried to change our job. Someone tried to turn us into a manager or a leader or a paperwork pen-pushing prick somewhere else against our wishes a lot of the time. Our batteries start to run low. The missus or the family, or sometimes ourselves or peer pressure says maybe it's time to get out. Is that the answer? Usually not. Because what happens is that drags you from the bosom of your brotherhood, which is maybe the only place you truly call home now. And then you go to a separation seminar, and from there the fear steps in as you realise this is becoming real. What am I going to do when I get out? Will that fulfil the needs and the wants that I had, the calling that made me join the military in the first place? And then we start to get separation anxiety and push those with us around and push them away because we're getting ready for our next life, only to find out the day you discharge, now the fear is, am I going to get the support from the organisation? And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment because a lot of it is about anxiety. But normally what happens is you leave places like Townsville, maybe Gallipoli Barracks, Brisbane, it could be Darwin, and then you go to somewhere like Port Macquarie or back to Melbourne, or go to Sydney. Going somewhere where you are completely disconnected from your organisation, completely, where no one is there to hear you scream, that silent scream that people can't necessarily see the signs of. And that's when people can go down that junction of more alcohol or less alcohol. Not that one is necessarily better than the others, because sometimes your mind goes crazy when it's left to its own devices. Hey, Lanky Warrior, how you going, mate? Thank you very much for your new membership as well. Those teams that want to support the channel so we can support others, like the young lady that we gave a fair bit of razoo to on the weekend to help her with her mission, would be much appreciated and accepted by her, I'm sure. When you go to get out of the military, all of a sudden you find out you're by yourself. And there's a form called an M40. All of the injuries, all of the things that have happened for you, when you do your last medical, they write all that down on this form. And when you write out the paperwork for your discharge, it can be like this thick. And when you put that in the letterbox, this request for support, whether it be for a gold card for injuries, whether it be for something that is like diffused for TPI, whatever, that pay for things like PTSD courses, you've left your fate in the hands of the judges, and that can be very, very scary, and it can take months and months to find out. And we've got thousands of people across Australia that gave their service, that held the sword, that are being judged by those with the pen after months, after years, that are thinking this should be clean cut. Sometimes guys put himself in a really bad position. Bucko knows about this. Having trouble with the military, get out, go and do something in police. And then when you come back to DVA, they might go, well, you went from the military to a very, very stressful situation being the police force. How do we know it's our fault? You didn't say anything about it while you served. And it can go from there. Ultimately, what I'm saying is, who do we blame? Or is there so many places that if you try to go that way, at the end all you do is hurt yourself? A lot of soldiers normally end up disenfranchised from their family. Sometimes the worst thing they do is move on to a new partner that alienates their previous family, because a younger family, especially with kids, requires you to look after them more. Maybe it's a necessary evil of service, that we go up against the beast and the invisible wounds are similar to the physical wounds. Yeah. Do people listen? No. Okay. Recruiting. What do we else get here? Voiceless. That's the hard thing. Those in the military are absolutely voiceless to be able to say what's going on. The Chief of the Defence Force can do and say whatever he wants. He can support LGBT rights online. Yet you can't even put your march out on there without getting persecuted. That is fucking wrong and it needs to change. We have a judicial system for all of those serving within the military. Let's keep it at that. If you do something that disgraces the military, then you get your ass kicked. But other than that, let people have their Instagram. Let people have their Facebook. Let them have their YouTube channel because that's free advertising. Let them have it. It's their voice. Okay? But don't treat it, like it's a crime. What do we got? Something leadership I've got here. And what does it say? I don't know. Culture clashes. We've got people in a civilized country like Australia going into uncivilized countries, like Afghanistan, like Africa, like East Timor to some extent. Their cruelty to dogs is the worst I've ever seen. And you're supposed to look at all this and then walk away and go, okay, forget all that. You don't forget it. Okay? And what you walk past, you end up owning. And then you end up with names like myself, again, like Bernadette, like Amalia, like Julius, like Grace. There are so many names rather than instances that people talk about with PTSD and moral injuries. All of the guys that you see that are upset, that are in tears, that are suffering, it's not normally for themselves, it's for a friend, for a brother that they're crying for. But also we know that men don't know how to cry. We make this stupid face that we pull and we can't get away from. It's a hard deal, team, and some people, choose a permanent solution. That permanent solution doesn't mean they've thought about it forever either. It might be something that happens that quick. Someone doesn't answer the phone. They've had a few bit too much to drink. Their footy team has lost. Their dog has just passed away. Their missus is gone, and that's enough. Yeah. Cass, for advertising, yes, but also pride. Absolutely, Cassie, absolutely. Mr. Buckery says, have you seen some of the cringy US military shit on social media? I understand why there is a ban in Australia. Yeah, it's also because it competes with the narrative as well. Declan, I know, Buck, it's disgraceful, but I do think there could be some time in between solutions. In between solution. It might be hard, Declan, with this generation, because they're absolutely addicted to projecting information they don't necessarily know about. Carl P. I'll be having a kebab tomorrow. No, this might go back towards the young lady from the weekend. For those that don't know, those that are part of the Patreon crew, we looked after a girl on the weekend who has got, I believe, a moral injury or a post-traumatic stress kind of reaction to the fact that she's lost her father and her mother has told her that she wasn't meant to be born, that she was basically an accident, etc. Devastating. So we gave her a card, from the veteran community, that welcomed her and gave her appreciation and respect and value her mission, and we gave her some money to allow her to get herself some sushi instead of just the hustle of going to work just to pay for the bills that come with being a university student, so she could see the light and understood that others had faith in her mission. It was beautiful. She walked away, it went weird, and then she came back out, bawling her eyes out. And I said to her, would you like a hug, love? And she said, absolutely. Doesn't have a father figure, and the hug she gave me was 100% genuine, and I believe that all of you guys get the hug from her for helping me. Thank you very much. Hitting the piss makes things worse, lads. Trust me, I went down that path and ended up in a bad way. Yep. It makes everything, especially anger. It kills young men and young gals all the time. It does. And I believe your generation, the newest generation, is doing things better in many ways as well. We've got William Kraske, Billy. Hey, Kaz, great. You're back on the job. News tonight says ABC has doctored a video saying Australian troops committed crimes against civilians in Afghanistan. The whole story is total bullshit. It is. They are traitors. They are traitors to the country, because the 5,000 or more captured Afghanis that were actual, not just terrorists, but murderers of their own. They're all back out in the street now. They're back in the street. Yet we're still attacking ours continually, relentlessly. Mate, we've got a Hare Krishna-based turmeric donation here from Ozoff. My SGI told the OP that the meds they have him on for his shoulder reconstruction gives him night terrors, and they said, too bad we don't give out the others. Give this to the lady who lost her father's, please, Kaz. That is a beautiful sentiment. Thank you, mate. Giving makes me feel better. You guys allow me to be in a position where I can give more. I recommend to everyone, if you get a chance, whether it's $5, $20, make it hurt a little bit. Give $50 to a mother that looks like she's looking through her purse like, shit, if I'd given more blowjobs, maybe I wouldn't be single. Such a rude bastard. Edgar, I'm at 8-9 RR. Okay, well done, mate. And duty first to you, sir. Duty first. When I say that, I mean with respect. I know we don't call each other sir, etc. The ABC are trash. Yes, they are. They're and the thing is, they're a narrative that is paid for by the taxpayer, and it's a disgrace. Dwayne, I hope you're feeling well. Those that don't know, Dwayne is in harm's way too. I hope you're doing well, my mate, and I look forward to talking to you. Noah, so true, Declan. I got the same look. Okay, I am only 19 and don't agree with most of the stuff my generation does. We don't even have the ability to look people in the eyes and shake their hands, and I've seen it as strange for doing it. Absolutely. And if you don't know, in the USA, and that is one of the biggest problems there, the lack of eye contact and human-on-human interaction is the direction that we're going at. Guys, I'm going to show a video, and I'm not trying to make this about me, but what this does, it lets you know that there is things you can do. And the recommendations that I would give is don't move away if you can, if your family supports you, from the very network that supports you the most, and that is the veteran community. You need to be near them, whether it be lunches, whether it be Anzac Day reunions, Remembrance Day, catching up with them, whether it be a weekly coffee with them, whether it be giving volunteer service to your ex-unit, doing barbecues for them, being some part of association. Yeah, that can help, right? Giving away the alcohol. Don't move into a new relationship too quickly. There should be organisations, and there are some organisations that will capture soldiers as they discharge, but not as much as there is for officers helping officers. Right. You do have to help yourself, but all right. Where are we? So I'm going to put this video on, team, and I really, really appreciate that, Aussie. Can we get some thanks for Aussie there for supporting the young lass? on behalf of all of us, and Elise King, who's doing it hard as well. You know, I don't want to go into where she is, etc. Where are we here? Brand browse. Okay. So if you don't mind me watching this video, us watching this video together, you may have seen it before. Elise, if you're watching this now, I know that Bucko's seen this. Guys and gals, this is something that I did as a collaboration with Mick Rice, who was my section commander at the School of Infantry, and I went through. And this is very important to me because I'll never be able to forget the children and the plight that our politicians pushed us into that was absolutely destroyed the people's minds that went. Okay, we're talking about Rwanda today, but let this just be just one tip at the end of at the top of what do you call it? Bleh. At the top of an iceberg that gives you some indication that the PTSD, the moral injuries, etc., that these are not just about firing weapons. This can be about incidents that happen, vehicle rollovers. It can happen from seeing horrible barbarianism that happens in other cultures, you know, that you're not allowed to talk about because, you know, that would be racist. So let's have a look at this and remember that 1 million people were murdered in 1 month. Okay, this is Rwanda 1995. The genocide happened before this, and this is all about the Kibayo massacre. Let's see if they even let us watch this. Okay, where are we? Yeah. Okay. Where are we?
Rwanda. 1994,
1995.
Kibayo, Ntirama Church. Kigali. Hospitals. Desperation. Anxiety. Smells. Tastes. Atrocities. Immaturity. And innocence lost. God was not there. He doesn't meddle in the affairs of humans. But he watches on. And he'll judge them tomorrow.
Team, just so you know too, that where this situation is occurring is on a religious site. Hey, mate. Yeah, it's on a religious site. So that made it even worse. This is Ntirama Church. You know, the massacre happened at Kibayo, beside where there was a divine vision of Mary. Absolutely terrible. David Kelly, never been in, seen a battalion with 4 rifle companies. Dave, every single battalion in the Royal Australian Regiment, you know, used to have 4 rifle companies, all of them absolutely full. This is a new phenomenon that has happened from just since before I left the battalions, when Delta companies started becoming training battalions, etc. You know, it's cringe. It's horrible. Right.
Black lives did not matter in 1994 and 1995 because we had the opportunity to help and we didn't. Unimere 1, Unimere 2, the most expensive soldiers in the world to rent other than Canadians, travelled to Rwanda, Central Africa, a population of 8 million whittled down to 7 million and about to go down further, while the Australians watched on. Our rules of engagement were bullshit. Our aftercare of Rwanda has been bullshit. Have a pension, keep your mouth shut. Sorry for what you went through. I wrote a diary. So, a permanent. Bookended by who I used to be and who I am now. I always think of the 4 names that stick with me because the places, anyone can remember that. You can visualise that. You can look that up. But I think of Bernadette, a beautiful little girl, completely innocent but crippled, who was in a hospital. I don't know what had happened to her. She didn't speak English. And she used to come down the machine gun pit and used to spend time with me. I used to give her candy. I used to give her mosquito repellent, the simple things. I used to show her the photo of the girl I was going home to marry in Australia, Vanessa Muller. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I came home a different guy. She was beautiful. She was such a memory. I named my daughter, who was born today, 10 years ago, after her, Aaliyah Mary Bernadette. Bernadette, I love you. And I hope that you are happy. I hope that you have children. And I hope that you have love at the table. And then there's Julius. Julius, a beautiful little boy from Uganda whose family had been murdered. And he'd fled to Rwanda, pot kettle, to get away. He was mercilessly bullied by the boys of Rwanda. I tried to get him out of there. I bought him a franchise, a $50. Well, I gave him the money, but I never saw him again. And in my mind, I hope that he fled to somewhere safe to get away from his abusive uncle. A lovely little boy. If you're out there now, Julius, I still think about you every day. And now it gets grim. Amalia, a little girl whose name I had to give to a face that I can't remember, that is now hazy. And all I want to do is remember it. A little girl who had lost her life to fully grown adult men, machete, gun, boot. She was too slow to get away. Myself and Bluey, we carried her. That was at Kabeo. It was too late for that little girl, but I still think about her and who she could have been. This used to be a car spring, turned into a weapon of war, used against civilians by militia. Black lives didn't matter, and God was not there at Kabeo or Rwanda. That's a guarantee. One thing that was there, but was gum trees. So you felt like it was all happening in Australia. That leaves us with Grace, one of my saddest memories. And she was a little girl about 3 years old that was hugging onto her father. And as our column left Kabeo for the second day of just my section within the platoon, with the rear protection, I remember all the bodies, all the digging, all the blood, all the rain. And this little girl was in the Badlands. There was no help coming, or it could have, but our rules of engagement said no. Grace's father was dying in the mud. She had nowhere to go. We had eye contact. We shared a moment that has now lasted forever. As we drove away and I locked gaze with her, I knew there was no happy ending. And I dare say Grace is gone. Kabeo, Rwanda, it doesn't have happy memories for me. I've written poems about it. I've shared stories with it. But black lives didn't matter, and God was not present. And regrets, we should all have them, because Australia, I believe, did not represent our nations. It is your fault. You could have done better, but you didn't. Love and respect to the people of Rwanda. I don't know how you do it, and every day I remember to remember. Thanks, Mick, for giving me this opportunity. See you later. Rwanda.
Okay, team. Whenever I show this, I've got to try and be a third person's perspective, because making this was a very painful thing, and what I like about this when I try to explain it to people is it amplifies. It's not about the glory of snipers or machine guns. It's the horror of loss and sacrifice and the struggling. And there is nothing worse than looking in the face of someone when hope is gone. And when they're looking at the best small army in the world, who's looking back at them, with no solutions, and in the rules of engagement that says, sorry, you're not on my menu. How can we ever expect the soldiers to go home and not carry that healed as they mature and create families of their own. So there is things we can do, but there's also inevitabilities that are going to occur, scars that will never go away but are carried individually. And it's not until years and years later when we talk about these things that writing things down, whether it be diaries, whether it be patrol reports, whether it be videos like this, you do a service to others to show them they're not alone. And what it also does is evacuate some of the hurt that you have and purge it from within yourself to allow you to try and have some semblance. So I think some of the message of tonight is don't be afraid to communicate, but make sure that it counts. Do it with people that you care about. It's one thing to say that people don't want to talk about it, but that could be because they've been betrayed in the past when they tried to do it. That maybe someone gave them disrespect, and changed the subject, or wasn't listening, or looked at their phone. It never hurts the person that hears the story as much as the person that gives it, that starts to relive it again within themselves. So also be careful if you ask someone to share their story, you need to be able to spend a fair bit of time with them after that gives them a chance to come back down, change the subject, and then move back on. Otherwise, you're going to leave them with that pain that they'll go home with. And if you've been drinking, that can be catastrophic. Mate, every time I watch that, it gives me the chills, says Carl, who's a real family man. He's a real sheepdog. And so is Mr. Buckaroony, a servant of the nation. Adam, you could never get 1,000 going for selection, mate. Yeah. And special forces aren't the answer. They're not. They've got a special job, but they suffer just like we do. And at the moment, they're the ones being persecuted. The Fresh Prince says, thanks for sharing that, Kaz. No problems, mate. By sharing these things, it strips us back and shows a vulnerability, and it also gives you permission to show that you can do it too. Some people will be talking about bullying. Some people's might be massacres. Some people might be police. Some might be road trauma. Your perception can make something a reality. Yeah, that's a fact, Jack. Brad says, can't even imagine such atrocities. It was bad, Brad. It was actually worse, and it was worse than I could possibly explain to you, because it also came with smells. It came with hardship. It came with one of the biggest crime scenes in the history of the world, where the actual serial killers were looking in the face of those that were there as police, which was people like myself, completely outnumbered, and then asked for water by those that had actually done the atrocities because their arms were suffering from the stresses of the killing. How do you deal with that? This massive crime scene, Yep. Instead of doing something about it, we're told, okay, what you can do, you can start building a grave for those to help clean it up, for them to hide what they created. Noah said before, I got told by my family I shouldn't go to the army because I'm not built for the military and I should stay as a plumber. There might be a reality of truth there, Noah. Maybe you're not built for this, but if they've never served, they also wouldn't necessarily know, because the military turns people into men. It does. And if this is your calling and you don't do it, then you will also have a regret that can last a lifetime, like a moral injury as well. The Zendan, this was Africa. Yeah. Yep. Declan Kent, people don't understand how lucky they have it here. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They don't. The fact that we can turn our tap on and you're not going to get sick from the water. You can turn the lights on. The fact that you can walk down the streets and it's safe as hell. Unless you mess with the wrong people in their business. Mr. Buckaroony says, the fact that it was kids makes it worse. Aussie soldiers always have a soft spot for kids no matter what country. Absolutely. Couldn't have said that better. And it's good people that get the moral injuries and the PTSD, not bad people. Yep. Ian Turner, fantastic guy. Lost his life the same day as James Meredith Hutt. really big heart, loved his family, would never allow bullying to happen in front of him. Special forces soldier, and he lost his life. Too many trips, it just broke him down. We are a free country in some ways. In some ways, the ABC doesn't like that. Billy Bob's there. What else we got? Guys, it is a tough subject, and no matter how much some people think it's a big deal, the majority aren't interested in it because it doesn't touch them or their lives. We can't persecute them for it. Ignorance, is an excuse for some people. Billy Crass says, for recruiting purposes, the government must offer incentives, like if you serve overseas, you get no interest loan on return with free medical. These incentives, they're now that no one talks about. Absolutely. I think that there should be military ADF villages, that are in semi-rural locations with 100 houses built at them that actually give skeletal add-on and economic advantage to those towns. They've all of a sudden got an influx of all of these veterans that are there with their families paying reduced subsidy, rent, etc. with their pensions, but also going to the community areas and giving back to society and speaking to each other without police coming and potentially looking at it as just normal bad behaviour. It's something where we carry our rank our entire life. Someone that was a private will always normally with someone that was a section commander, platoon sergeant, etc. when they come over with no ego and go, come on, son, relax, don't do that. You know better, and we know you're better than that. We've got a way of talking each other off the cliff, so to speak. And if people live in these areas, they could support each other. Wouldn't cost that much money either. Yep. In Western Sydney, where we live, we can be spiked or triggered by the things we see on a daily basis, whether it be bad parents, who treat their children like crap, or whether it be immigrants, and the way they're acting around here, or whether it be the criminal element. Yeah, it's a tough place to be, especially when you're always got your eye out for the kids. How much mightier than the sword is the pen? Absolutely. If the ink from that pen put into writing doesn't hold up the sword, which makes the pen mightier than it. The sword which makes the sword. Yeah. The problem is those that carry the sword normally have internal honour. Those that carry the pen, and we're talking about from the point of view of bureaucracy, and only after one thing, and that's advancement and social climb. They don't understand necessarily what it's like to just have that commitment to doing the right thing when no one's watching. Yeah. This looks like it's dying at the moment, this microphone. So if it cuts out all of a sudden, that's what's going on. Guys, I appreciate you being here tonight. This is a subject that most people don't necessarily have time for until it comes down to who's going to protect us. Going to get sent to New Guinea. How's this working now? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear this, team. Can we hear this now? Inspiring Kaz, absolutely time it's talked about. So many affected PTSD and swept under the carpet. Yeah, it's true. There's no easy way to do it, but time is a very important thing. There is the right timing, Anzac Day's a good one. We don't talk about our traumas, we talk about our laughs and stuff, but there's a tenderness that happens between the soldiers when they come together. Yeah. You always ask someone, how did someone become a bikie and why did that happen? How much were they hurt in the past? Were they doing it because they're a criminal element, or were they doing it because they wanted to be part of a brotherhood because they felt like they've been let down by everyone in their life? Okay, some people go to the outlaw bikie gang. Some people go to clubs. Some people go to sports. Some people go to military. Some people go to police, Air Force, Navy, etc. Mr. Buckarooni's throwing some black hands there. 3 diggers a fortnight is disgusting. I couldn't believe that number. When it said 1,677, I went, holy shit, that is a lot. We had a fantastic guy called Lewis Shelley. I like to use people's names out loud. That is like you're giving a little salute to their loss, that they actually really existed. He was a lovely, lovely man, but he had a curse with the alcohol, and that took him down. Yeah, people don't like talking about the tough things until it happens to them. Absolutely. And what we've got is also this victim mentality these days where people, it breaks my heart, mate, when I look at all these videos of Tribe of Men, etc., and these girls all talking about the trauma that they've been through with a relationship. You're going, shut up, trauma. Save that for the ambulance drivers and for the police and for the fire brigade that turn up to road trauma. When someone talks about the very person they picked didn't work out, I just shake my head. Shake my head. Guys and gals, I hope you're never touched by some of the things that break down the best of us. It's a tough one. It really is. Someone truly dies when someone says their name for the last time. Yeah, man. That's a nice point there, Simon. I like that. Someone only truly dies when someone says their name for the last time. There you go. Yep. Nice one. Dwayne. Yeah, people don't like talking about the tough things until it happens to them. Absolutely. Be part of the conversation. There's going to be more operations to come, but we need to be able to ask, can we win? And what is the price of winning? And what are we going to do for the soldiers when they return? Or do we have leaders or do we have managers? Who's going to take accountable? Who's going to show the moral courage after the soldier has shown the physical courage? That's all we ask in return. It's not too much. Lightfoot, is PTSD like a cancer? Catch it early on and it can be treated more effectively. Could precision counsel be like precision radiotherapy? Thanks, Edgar. I would say to you, how many people do you know that therapy's cured? Yeah. They'd go out of business if they cured people, wouldn't they? Lloydie, I don't think it would have mattered how early someone caught me. It doesn't change the fact that I was part of an organisation, a military organisation, who was better armed and better trained than the forces I was up against, that we were told were not our enemy, but then we're told to watch atrocities and then clean up those atrocities and then turn our back on the victims and drive away. There is no way you can acquit that. That pain will be with real people for the rest of their life, and there is nothing you can do about it. No therapy helps. PTSD courses, it teaches you how to talk about it, but it doesn't necessarily make it better, Tim. Mike Tyson has really bad PTSD about losing his child. Okay, how are you? Just passed my interview on medical. Well done, Shadow Lords. Shalena, g'day, mate. Here you go. Yeah, we have a lot of dilemmas ahead of us, and we live not in the moment as animals do. We tend to have a residue of an understanding of something that's happened in front of us that lasts with us for a lifetime. Okay, so you do have to be careful on who you choose as friends. You do have to understand before you go overseas that this might be the last time you ever drink again, because drinking opens the door for darker demons to come and visit you in your sleep. Addiction, whether someone says something is addictive or not, you've only got to look at the consumption of the person that is involved to know that some things are highly addictive to people, even if it's not an addictive quality item. Would you say that Kentucky is addictive? Simon would. There you go, Simon, you filthy raffy. Sorry, Elise. Seeing being part of the true suffering of life really humbles people and leaves a scar, and perception keeps the pain in perspective. Absolutely. And if you talk about something, you take the fangs out a little bit. You take some of the sharpness off the claws. Yeah. Okay, Lloydie says, by council, or could be a council of peers linking into the 100-strong community. Well, this definitely, is cathartic in some ways, because as your stress levels get higher and higher, when you talk about it, it lowers down again. Okay, so I've got to thank you all for being there tonight, being here while I've rambled about a subject that no one seems to be talking about. And tonight I didn't make it about blame. I didn't throw it at the feet of others, because at the end of the day, the mirror is still in front of me. Yep. Winnie says, Kaz, never knew my father was suffering PTSD from his efforts in World War II. He'd stare at the TV while we were all doing stuff at home. Absolutely. Those guys were a different breed. You'd have to ask some of them, would have they been better off being hit by the first bullet than lasting an entire conflict, only to come home and have the conflict still occurring in their heads. Brad was saying that drinking never fixed a single issue for anyone, only ever makes it worse. I disagree with one thing there, Brad. I remember a young lass once was rounder than what she was tall, and because of alcohol, I gave her the thrashing of a lifetime that she probably still remembers fondly, that wouldn't have been available without Smirnoff Black. To her, it was my pleasure. I got out of there before I was sober. Okay, Chingy from Australia. Crazy that as part of the ADF report, it's identified that the ADF does not track or have an understanding of why people are separating from service. Look, the military's job, and I'm going to stick up from a little bit here, is to only move forward. Their job is to prepare for war, not to look around at what's happened. The guys that are serving, the gals that are serving right now are going to be the next people that are thrown into the mix. We don't have time to sit down and kumbaya. Our time is to get fit, to get ready, to prepare for war and say duty first. We are a necessary evil, and the price of service is always going to be there. But we volunteer for it too. How can there be ladies in the men's shed? Holy shit, Brady. That's an interesting one. Currently completing the leadership module here and gearing up for Shaggy Ridge. It's crazy because we've been taught all about how to care for your soldiers, and yet command have let us down for years. Absolutely, Aussie. Absolutely. And I've never had anyone ever ask me if I'll come and do, well, I have, when I was getting out, but doing public speaking, only civilians have ever got me to come and do it. I'd go and speak at the college. I'd go and speak at the School of Infantry. Formerly instructor of the year, but never asked to come back and talk with us for free. Doesn't make sense to me. And I'm the only one that does it. Smirnoff Black story cracked me up. Carl, if you laughed at it, my friend, that means you might have lived it. To all those ladies out there that need alcohol and a man's lips to give them a chance at romance. A box of romance a day. Mr. Buccaneer said, Kaz said to her, this will be quick, wasn't it? It wasn't. It was an hours of ordeal. That's what happens when you're as fit as I used to be. Feminists aren't always female, if you know what I mean. Brad, the male feminist, he's an enemy of the nation too. I only need 5 minutes. No way, mate. No. It's a Kentucky tour every time someone says yes to Kaz. I'm a pleaser. Jacob, g'day, mate. Do you miss the DPCU? I miss the uniform. I miss having my name, my family name on my chest. I miss having the Australian flag, and I miss the sergeant stripes that say, okay, that you are one of the guys of your organisation. It's less about paperwork and more about being a senior soldier. You've achieved it. I believe that sergeant is the rank that you should be stoked with, because you're still in an organisation with the soldiers, not pushed away with officers doing the paperwork, something you didn't join for. Yeah, we're almost done, team. I just wanted to show my appreciation. I didn't know how tonight was going to go. I didn't know whether we were going to lose track. I didn't know whether this was going to be something that you just didn't find interesting. But I can show my appreciation, for you guys being here tonight. And hopefully this inspires conversations for you tomorrow, and maybe some leaves that you can stick onto that the network of the tree, the scaffolding, and have a better understanding that you as well as I can be suffering the same, but how we got there was just a different path. It is not a competition. Mental health is not a competition. And if it is, you fucking definitely don't want to win it. Brady, hope you're feeling okay. Simon Cass said you were under the weather a couple of weeks ago. Stay well, my friend. There you go, Simon. Click the thumbs up. That's the cost of watching tonight, is the thumbs up if you can. 45, that's not too bad. Could we bring back national service? So many youth in this country, towns with no future. Billy Krask, exactly. Billy's not in the best position either, team. He works really, really hard for his family. Mucho respecto, and his son is serving as well. He's a true legend. Okay, what do we got? Eric, Nasho would be great. Mr. Buccarooni, politicians will never bring it back. Yeah, the politicians will never bring it back because they will think that they won't get voted in if they're the ones that bring it. But I tell you what, Australia would be better for it. And it's not just about teaching them the law of the bayonet. It's about teaching them how to be a team player. It's about what you put on the table. Because if they don't do something like national service, then you know what's waiting around the corner will actually be a social credit score. And you don't want that, because then the government will be completely in charge based on how you skip their rope. Okay, Samson's saying that he's doing an interview soon to get into a TAFE bridging course. That's for the military team. Handcrafted by Terry. Okay, thanks, Kaz, for tonight. Hearing journeys through life would have been terrifying, what you went through with the little girl. I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Thank you for your services. Mate, it is my pleasure. I would do it again. And the people like Bernadette, like Grace, okay, like Amalia and Julius, if I didn't talk about it, then it didn't happen. So I'm here to tell you the tree did fall down in the forest. With that, team, what I'd like to say as a summary, my heart goes out to those that serve, not just in the Australian ADF, but those that feel voiceless, those that are made voiceless, those that get out for the wrong reasons and are ostracised by family, sometimes by friends, by occupation, by finance, by politicians and leadership. You've got to take as much effort in the discharge as what you do in the enlistment, because if you blow it, it will come back to bite you hard, real hard, and you may not recover from the teeth. Wingnut says, got to go all, Kaz, you've been knocked out of the park. Catch up soon. Thank you very much, Carl P. I look forward to our morning chat tomorrow. And remember, guys and gals, a conversation, an acknowledgement of someone else's pain might be all it takes to bring them off an edge and let them know, hey, you see me. What I went through is not bullshit. Thank you very much. George, Kaz, what are your thoughts on the government offering citizenship for service? Will that fix Australian problems with personal shortages? I think no. I think what it's going to do is put a foreign army on our soil. Yeah, it's a tough one. We'll make this the second last one. G'day, Jennifer G from up north. There you going, buddy? we're all in the same ocean with different boats. No one can truly compare their trauma as everyone perceives what happens differently. It shouldn't be a sign of weakness to talk about it. Absolutely. And we've also got to be careful too that we don't just walk around as walking, talking victims, because you don't want to be that. Okay, Brady says there is no one to operate and manage the system these days, let alone the infrastructure required to make it viable. Yep. We see greenies walking over garbage. Now, go and work that one out. Elise, take it easy. Let's talk as soon as you can. Mr. Buccaroony, have a great week, everyone. Stay positive. Our country will be better, but it is still the best in the world. Yes, it is. Later, Stinky, I thought you didn't have to do the bridging course anymore. Okay. Thanks, Cass, for hard-hitting topic. Look after yourself. I will. Elise King, I just want to know you'd be the only person that I'd be willing to talk to right now before I go and talk to my daughter. Elise, can you talk at the moment? Let us know. Quick thumbs up or thumbs down. Thanks, Kaz. It was a great stream tonight. Love listening. Dwayne, as normal, you're always part of the family, mate, and I look forward to talking to you. Maybe tomorrow if you want to, my man. I hope we hit all the bases without offending anyone tonight, but sometimes the truth is offensive. All right, team. See you later. Wingy. Left hand salute right there. We're not allowed to do that, but I'm out of the army now, so I can. See you later. Mucho respecto to your family. Declan, I'll see you there. And, enjoy your life in the best country in the world. See ya. See ya.